Soyuz Apollo link-up. It was only 14 years ago that man had his first glimpse of the Earth from outer space, and saw that it wasn't so big after all. That man was Yuri Gagarin, the Soviet cosmonaut and great friend of Sergei Korolev, the chief designer of the first space rockets, manned spaceships, and interplanetary stations. Right after Yuri Gagarin's flight, the Communist Party and the government of the Soviet Union issued an appeal to the peoples and governments of all countries. We regard the victories in the conquest of outer space the achievements not only of our people, but of the whole of mankind. We gladly place them in the service of all the peoples, for the sake of progress, happiness, and well-being of all the people of the world. He beckoned all of us into outer space, said Neil Armstrong, the American astronaut who was the first to step on the moon, while speaking about Gagarin. The agreement between the USSR and the USA on joint space research proclaims that the two sides shall develop cooperation in cosmic meteorology, study of the environment, terrestrial space research, the moon and the planets, cosmic biology and medicine. Soviet and American cosmonauts, declared Leonid Brezhnev, know that from outer space our planet looks even more beautiful, although small. But it is big enough for us to live on it in peace, though too small to endanger it by nuclear war. The public and politicians of the world view the flight of the Soyuz 19 and Apollo as a historical event in space research, as a vital contribution to improving the whole international climate. The press center covering the Soyuz Apollo flight began working in Moscow on July the 14th, 1975. Scientists of the USSR and the USA planned and calculated a unique point in boundless expanses of outer space. The spaceships Soyuz and Apollo should meet at this point under the flags of the two states. The date of the meeting, July 17th, 1975. On the Earth that day, millions of people pronounced the names of the five brave men: Alexei Leonov, Valery Kubasov, Thomas Stafford, Donald Slayton, Vance Brandt. Five names, five men. The Earth gave them a hearty send-off. The androgynous peripheral link-up module. It will enable any type of ships to link up in outer space. And this means, if need be, they can come to the aid of each other. The conquest of outer space can be approached from various points of view: historical, social, the day-to-day practical point of view. Yet, no matter how boundless the world of man's interest might be, he will always try to fathom the mysteries of nature. Man's wisdom will scale the heights of life, yet he himself will always be only a part of his world, simply a man. July 15th, 1975.
Судьба твоя, Россия, над речкою ветла, Смоленская дорога, что к звездам привела. Смоленская дорога, что к звездам привела. Мальчишечья улыбка, да мудрые слова.
Two spaceships on the opposite sides of the planet get ready to blast off into outer space for a meeting on the uncharted roads of the universe. Today, on July the 15th, at 10 hours 20 minutes, they began fueling up the rocket carriers. Actually, behind this modest press bulletin stood 2 years of hard work. The crews go through their pre-flight medical examination. Two men with their different characters get ready to grapple with nature. Two men out of 250 million Soviet citizens. Chairman of the State Commission, the crew of the Soyuz spaceship is ready for the joint flight with the American spaceship Apollo. Crew Commander, Colonel Leonov.
Дорогие товарищи, друзья,
Dear comrades, friends, we have the great honor of participating in the first international flight of manned spaceships. The fulfillment of this experiment will yield still broader possibilities in our space research. We pledge to the party's Central Committee, our Soviet government, our Soviet people, that we shall give all our energy, knowledge and experience to carry out our country's assignment with honor. 2 out of 250 million Soviet citizens. Alexei Leonov hails from the village of Lysvyanka in the Kemerov region, born in 1934. Valery Kubasov comes from the town of Vyazniki in the Kyazma area, born in 1935. Leonov was the first man in the world to walk in outer space. Kubasov was the first in the world to weld metals in outer space. Both were decorated with the Tsiolkovsky gold medal. 15 hours, 20 minutes Moscow time, Baikonur Cosmodrome. The Soyuz 19 blasts off from the planet Earth. How simple and customary this seems today, But let's watch it once more. The rocket, whose starting weight is 300 tons, slowly and seemingly unwillingly breaks out of the grasp of the Earth, picks up speed and carries the Soyuz spaceship into the cosmos. During the fifth orbit of Soyuz 19 around the Earth, its orbit is checked at Soviet Flight Control Center. And 7 hours, 3 minutes after the Soyuz blastoff, the Apollo spaceship took off from the Cape Canaveral Cosmodrome in the United States. The commander of the ship, U.S. Air Force Brigadier General Thomas Stafford, was born in 1930 in Weatherford, Oklahoma. Pilot of the command module, test pilot Vance Brand, was born in 1931 in Longmont, Colorado. Pilot of the link-up module, U.S. Air Force Major Donald Slayton, was born in 1924 in Sparta, Wisconsin. First time in history, control of the spaceships was carried out from 2 different continents. Tracking stations engirdled the whole globe. A hotline worked permanently between the Soviet and American flight control centers. The results of the trajectory measurements confirmed a high degree of accuracy of the ballistic calculations and the orbiting of the vehicles. The link-up of the Soviet Soyuz 19 and American Apollo ships took place at 19 hours 12 minutes Moscow time on July 17, 1975. Perhaps the first step towards this meeting was taken 30 years ago during the victorious days of 1945 on the Elbe River in the center of Europe, destroyed by fascism. The great honor of opening up a new chapter in the history of space exploration has befallen anew the courageous conquerors of outer space, said Leonid Brezhnev, addressing the cosmonauts. Congratulating the spacemen, Gerald Ford said, "Many years were needed in order to open this door for beneficial cooperation in outer space between our 2 countries." In 1975, in outer space, the crew of the first International Space Expedition conducted joint studies in medicine, biochemistry, astrophysics, space technology. On the 96th orbit of July the 21st, at 13 hours 46 minutes Moscow time, the Soyuz 19 undocked with the Apollo. Then came the day when Alexei Leonov and Valery Kubasov came back from outer space and stepped on terra firma. joy and happiness of the meeting are Kalik, Baikonur, the Earth, the memorable firm handshake with American astronauts Thomas Stafford, Vance Brand, Donald Slayton. They're still up there in outer space. It was nighttime in Moscow on July 25th, 1975, when on the other side of the planet, television cameras filmed the splashdown of the Apollo in the ocean. Of the American ship was also a success. The Summing Up News Conference. Alexei Leonov.
Я знаю, что в течение нашего полета вы очень много работали и все знаете о нашем полете. I know during our joint flight we did a very great job. Therefore we know everything about our joint flight. Я могу сказать только лишь одно.
I can only say that our part of the joint Soviet-American flight was completed successfully.
Закончено успешно. Это заслуга не только нас, Валерия Кубасова.
That was due not only to Valery Kubasov and myself, it means the whole complex of the Earth and spaceship functioned faultlessly. Valery Kubasov.
Большое впечатление на нас произвел эксперимент.
We were greatly impressed by the artificial solar eclipse experiment. During the experiment, the Apollo was to eclipse the sun while we did the photography. And when the Apollo began to move away from us, we witnessed an unusually beautiful picture of the solar corona. This picture was supplemented by flashes of the Apollo's engines, which were stabilizing the ship, and then there was exposure due to the Apollo's big antenna. I consider the main thing to be that, in spite of our different social formations, we found much in common that is needed for the life of our nations and for life of the people in general. That is what Vladimir Lenin spoke about. The difference in social formations should not obstruct cooperation between countries and nations. These words of Lenin were confirmed by the fulfillment of our flight. We found the possibility for brilliant cooperation in the most complicated sphere of human activity, in space research. I think we shall find ways of cooperating in other fields as well. As Leonid Brezhnev said, we are for cooperation in all fields. Alexei Leonov and Valery Kubasov are home again, in Stellar Town. Only 14 years have gone by since the day when the people of the world heard radio news from the Soviet Union, a man in outer space. The handshake in orbit, traversed by the spaceships of the Soviet Union and the United States, gave the people of the world new hope that peaceful coexistence will get a firm foothold, not only in outer space, but on the Earth as well. Direction Yevgeny Legat, photography Igor Bgantsev, Leonid Goncharov, Sergei Kuzminsky, Viktor Syomin. Materials of Central Television were used in the making of this film, Central Documentary Film Studios.